Hi, I'm Ben and you're watching Batarang to the Butt. To celebrate the release of the upcoming Maul Shadow Lord, I wanted to take the opportunity to take you on a journey through the character's complete history. That means going through all of his appearances in chronological order, which means movies, comics and TV shows. However, I'm only going to be sticking to the canon stuff, so you won't hear me discussing the novels Darth Plagueis, Maul Lockdown or Maul Shadowhunter. Also, this is an updated version of a couple of older videos that I made, so please forgive some of the choppy editing and jumpy narration. Anyway, there's a lot to get through, so let's get stuck in.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
In an interview with StarWars.com from the year 2000, artist Ian McCaig described how he designed the notorious Sith Lord Darth Maul, saying, "George Lucas had described Darth Maul as a figure from your worst nightmare." That's my George Lucas impression. So, this is McCaig again, I don't have a McCaig impression. I drew George my worst nightmare. At the time, my worst nightmare was this. I'm inside a room during a thunderstorm. The hours pass by and I suddenly become aware that there's a lifeless face pressed against the window. It's dead, but it's alive, staring at me through the rain. I drew something like that for George, adding metal teeth and blood-red ribbons falling over the face instead of rain. When George saw it, he quickly turned the drawing over. "Okay," he said, "now draw me your second worst nightmare." Eventually, after a couple of other iterations, they settled on the now iconic look. Then, during actor Ray Park's makeup test, he couldn't take his new ear piercing out, as it was still too fresh, and if he took it out, it would have healed over. When George Lucas saw this, he decided, yeah, sure, why not? And that's why Maul has a stud ear piercing. Okay. Maul is a Dathomirian Zabrak and the son of the magical mother Talzin. Talzin was a powerful shaman and the leader of a group of force-sensitive witches known as the Night Sisters. The Sith Lord Darth Sidious would often visit Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters during his quest for ultimate power, and they would trade dark side teachings about the Force with one another. It was during these visits when Sidious first encountered young Maul. Sidious initially planned on taking Mother Talzin as his apprentice, but after seeing the potential in the young boy, he took Maul instead. Maul was then trained in the Force, and to be a formidable warrior. His weapon of choice is a double-sided lightsaber, which was quite rare. He mastered many forms of lightsaber combat, but his preferred choice was known as Juyo, which is the most aggressive, dominant and acrobatic form that there is. During this training, his master brought him to an old Sith temple on the planet Malachor, where he would breathe in the ashes of fallen Sith warriors. This gave him visions of the Sith being slain by the Jedi. He was able to feel the cuts of their sabers, and this fueled the beginning of his hatred for them. Sidious had big plans for the future, but it would take a while before he was ready to execute them. In the meantime, he and Maul had to operate from within the shadows. In the Marvel miniseries from 2017, Darth Maul has grown tired of waiting. He hates that he has to be patient, feeling that this is not the way of the Sith. He has a lust for vengeance and he desperately wants to kill his first Jedi. However, this is not a part of Sidious's plans just yet. When Maul hears of the kidnapping of a young Jedi Padawan, an opportunity arises. The Padawan is to be sold at an auction for crime lords. However, Maul planned to get to her first so that he can be the one to kill her. He goes on a secret mission to track her down, and when he finally catches her, they have a climactic duel before Maul kills her. He is glad to have killed his first Jedi, but he feels absolutely no satisfaction from it. In fact, his lust for vengeance has only deepened. His anger burns more than ever, and to top it all off, Sidious knew this was happening the whole time. But he let it happen because he knew that Maul would only grow angrier and more powerful through it. This leads into The Phantom Menace. You've probably seen the movie. Maul absolutely steals the show by being an absolute badass. When the Jedi Order discover a young boy with an incredible connection to the Force, Maul is sent by Sidious to go investigate. He shakes things up by revealing to the Jedi that after decades of peace, the Sith have returned. Then, during the Battle of Naboo, Maul battles with Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and his Padawan, Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's right, he fights against two Jedi at once. This duel is one of the best showcases of his abilities. Rather than using force chokes or lightning, Maul uses the Force to hone his physical skills. In fact, he even manages to defeat Qui-Gon Jinn, separating Master from Apprentice. He comes close to defeating Kenobi too, but he is defeated when Kenobi manages to cut him in half. This is where most people think that the story ends.
But the real nerds know that it is just getting started.
This is also the beginning of an iconic rivalry. Maul and Kenobi will meet again, multiple times. As we now know, Maul did not die. Instead, his connection to the dark side of the Force grew stronger than ever, thanks to the anger and shame that he felt over the defeat. He uses the Force to fall towards a vent, which happened to lead to a garbage container. This container was then brought to a trash planet called Lotho Minor. This is where Maul spent the next decade, in exile. He even manages to build himself new robotic spider legs using the Force. However, his defeat and exile had driven him to madness. In the meantime, and as a result of Maul's defeat and apparent death, Sidious has replaced his old apprentice with Count Dooku. Then he proceeded with his plans, edging ever closer to galactic domination. In fact, he was helped on his way by the outbreak of the Clone Wars. Eventually, Maul's brother, Savage Opress, would track him down.
It can be.
Opress is a great character in his own right, and had his own journey to get to this stage. But it's too complicated to get into during this video, so he will probably get his own video breakdown at some point. Which is another reason for you to like Batarang to the butt. Let me know in the comments below if that's something that you would be interested in seeing. Anyway, Opress brings the broken, defeated Maul back to Dathomir and to Mother Talzin, where she uses her magic to restore Maul's mind. She also crafts metal, sleek robotic legs for him. For the first time in a long time, he is back to his old self. So now, alongside his brother Savage Opress, Maul is once again ready for revenge. Upon his return to sanity, he asserts his dominance by making his brother his new apprentice. A bold move, considering the Sith rule of two is already being filled by his old master and the new apprentice. Maul then grabs Kenobi's attention by sending a hologram of him killing innocents straight to the Jedi Order. Obviously, the two have some unfinished business, so Kenobi goes to investigate, which leads to a very intense reunion between the two.
I am surprised you could have forgotten me so easily after I killed your master and you left me for dead on Naboo.
It is you.
The rivalry is back on. Then the Night Sister Asajj Ventress shows up. She has a history with Savage Opress, and now she plans on picking up the bounty that's on his head. She would also usually be an enemy to the Jedi, but in this instance she has no choice but to team up with Kenobi. Together they fight the brothers. It's a fantastic battle, and Kenobi even has to use one of Ventress's red lightsabers when he momentarily loses his. The unlikely pair barely manage to escape with their lives. This next chapter of Maul's life takes place in the Clone Wars Season 5, which takes place in 19 BBY chronologically. Throughout the Clone Wars, Maul uses a single-sided lightsaber. It's the same lightsaber from the Phantom Menace, but I'm sure you'll remember that Obi-Wan chopped it in half, which in my opinion was pretty disrespectful. Come on, that was a dope lightsaber. But don't worry, he will be getting another double lightsaber later on in his life. After Maul's first dramatic reunion with Kenobi, he and his brother Savage Opress continue to make themselves known by going on a killing spree throughout the galaxy, taking out as many Jedi as they can. Maul then plans to use the ongoing Clone Wars as an opportunity to grow his forces. He starts by attempting to overthrow Captain Hondo, a notorious smuggler pirate, but Hondo alerts the Jedi, setting Kenobi on the Night Brothers' trail again. This time, however, he has Jedi backup. The backup turns out to be a bit useless though, as she is literally headbutted to death by Savage Opress. The brothers continue to mercilessly hunt down Kenobi until he manages to chop off Savage Opress's arm, effectively making him pretty armless. Maul decides that their plan is ruined, and so turns his attention to protecting his brother. They abandon Kenobi, but during their escape, Maul gets one of his robotic legs blown off. The pair manage to escape, but their emergency craft is not built for long travels, and so it begins to run out of oxygen and fuel. Maul's anger and his connection to the Force keeps them both alive during this time. However, they have no choice but to float through space aimlessly. Luckily, it isn't too long before the ship is boarded by Death Watch. Death Watch was a Mandalorian splinter group whose purpose was to return the planet Mandalore to the warrior ways of its past. They are led by a man called Pre Vizsla, who, like Maul, also despises the supposedly peacekeeping Jedi. So they join forces. Death Watch even fixes the brothers up with newer robotic limbs. Then, together, they expand their power by overthrowing criminal groups such as Black Sun, the Pike Syndicate, and the Hutts. They become known as the Shadow Collective. Their success is largely thanks to Maul's knowledge of politics and his manipulative abilities. These were traits passed on to him by his old Sith Master, Sidious, who we will be seeing again soon. The most notable rival of Death Watch is the Mandalorian politician called Satine Kryze. She campaigns for peace and tries to maintain Mandalore's neutrality during the Clone Wars, something that Death Watch is very much opposed to. They believe that no Mandalorian should shy away from a fight.
I will use my army of crime lords to attack different targets across Sundari and sow chaos to undermine the Duchess's rule.
But thanks to Maul's meticulous planning and their other new resources, Death Watch is successful in its goal to overthrow the Mandalorian government. After this victory, the time arrives for Maul to overthrow Pre Vizsla and to assume full control of the Shadow Collective. He challenges Vizsla in combat, and the two have an epic lightsaber battle. Vizsla puts up a good fight for someone who isn't connected to the Force, but of course Maul is still victorious. He executes Vizsla by decapitating him.
Only the strongest shall rule.
I bet you thought this show was just for kids. This meant that the ancient Mandalorian weapon, the Darksaber, also now belonged to Maul.
I actually already have a video about the Darksaber, so if you want to know a bit more about its history, I will link that in the comments below.
This sudden takeover splits Death Watch's loyalties, many of them believing that Mandalore should be exclusively ruled by a Mandalorian, while the rest stay true to their traditions. Vizsla was defeated in combat, fairly. After all, this is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Sorry, what is it?
This is the way.
Oh yeah, cool. Duchess Satine Kryze was of course caught up in the middle of all this. She tries to convince the people of Mandalore that this is all a ploy, but unfortunately, thanks to Maul's manipulations, she no longer has the faith of the people. Vizsla's death was pinned on Satine, while Maul reinstated an older, corrupt politician as his new puppet leader of Mandalore. Satine sends a message out to Obi-Wan Kenobi requesting help, but because of Mandalore's neutral status, the Jedi Order cannot come to her aid, so instead, Kenobi must go alone. Long ago, Satine and Kenobi were once in a relationship, although it is pretty clear that they both still have feelings for one another. Kenobi had even previously admitted that he would have left the Jedi Order for her, if only she had asked.
All right. Had you said the word, I would have left the Jedi Order.
That is touching.
This all meant that Maul took great sadistic satisfaction in killing her in front of his rival. It is a devastating blow. She is killed with the Darksaber, the very blade that was meant to unify Mandalore. Her dying words reveal that she has always loved Kenobi. The Jedi is distraught, but Maul won't finish him just yet.
No. Imprison him below. Let him drown in his misery.
Instead, he is sent to the prison cells, but he was rescued not long after by Satine's sister, Bo-Katan Kryze. But even Kenobi's escape can't bring Maul down. This was arguably his finest hour. Following the dissolution of the pacifist government, Maul had become the new leader of Mandalore and its people. It had been quite the journey since his exile on that junkyard planet. Unfortunately though, this power and glory would be fleeting. Meanwhile, over in the galaxy's capital, Coruscant, Darth Sidious has masked himself as a politician, using his real name, Sheev Palpatine. He has been working closely with the Jedi Order, gaining their trust and slowly building a reputation for himself. He has also patiently been biding his time, waiting for the right moment to execute his sinister plans, something that Maul had always struggled with. Sidious, or rather Palpatine, had heard about the reappearance of his old apprentice, but they had not yet been reunited. Well, after feeling a disturbance in the Force, Sidious decides that it's time. So he travels to Mandalore to face his old apprentice, unhappy with the powers that Maul has been gathering. Maul is very aware of what his old master is capable of, and for the first time in a long time, he shows fear. Maul fights alongside his brother, and the three of them become a flurry of red sabers clashing. Unfortunately, despite having his own powers grow under the tutelage of Maul, Savage Opress stood no chance. Maul watches as one of the only people that he ever cared about is brutally taken out. As he dies, Savage apologises for not being a worthy apprentice to Maul. But Maul isn't given long to mourn. The battle rages on. He now ignites the Darksaber as well. He and Sidious are arguably matched in terms of their abilities with a lightsaber, but Maul is ultimately defeated by Sidious's Force abilities. He is far from the apprentice that he once was, but Maul is still not powerful enough to defeat his old master. Sidious does not kill him though. Instead, he takes Maul prisoner. This next part helps bridge the gap between that Season 5 finale and the very last arc of the Clone Wars show. For a dark time, the Clone Wars TV series had been prematurely cancelled, which is why this next part of Maul's story takes place in a comic, which was adapted from unfinished Clone Wars scripts. Thankfully the show was brought back for Disney Plus recently, and it was awesome, but I'll get to that soon enough. Also, I want to clarify that this is a summary of what happens in this comic. I will not be going over every single detail. Nothing beats reading the actual comic, so please support the industry, check this book out. It is a big recommendation from me, especially if you enjoy these characters. In the meantime, I'm sure you remember, Sidious has defeated and captured his old apprentice. Maul is held hostage in a secret prison on the planet Stygian. There, Sidious and his latest apprentice, Dooku, torture him. The Sith duo learn that Mother Talzin is behind Maul's apparent resurrection, but Maul refuses to give up any information about her or about his Shadow Collective. Now remember, the Shadow Collective was the name of the criminal underworld that Maul had been building. Dooku is left alone with Maul, continuing his attempts to coax information out of the prisoner. He reveals to Maul that cracks have started to form in the collective since Maul's capture, as the Hutts have seemingly abandoned them. This is the first time that Maul has met his replacement. He mocks Dooku, saying that he expected more. It doesn't take long before Maul is broken free by a group of his loyal Mandalorian super commandos, led by Gar Saxon. Upon his escape, he is reunited with the Darksaber in one of his bases on Zanbar. He still has control over several groups, such as Black Sun and the Pikes, but their trust in him has been shaken. It is quickly revealed that he has been tracked down by a group of separatists, led by General Grievous. Maul unleashes the might of the Shadow Collective upon them, but Grievous and his droids make easy work of the Mandalorians. Maul helps by putting up a good fight, but many of his troops are slaughtered, forcing him and any other survivors to retreat. Like any troubled son would, Maul then goes on to seek advice from his mother. Unlike most people though, he is the son of the powerful witch Mother Talzin. Talzin had previously had to abandon her physical form after General Grievous had laid waste to her sanctum and decimated her coven of Night Sisters. But through her magic, she was able to project her presence from the spirit world as a spectre, which is how she appeared to Maul now. Despite her lack of physical presence, she still posed a threat to Sidious's plans, and he knew it, which is why he planned to use Maul to track her down and to put an end to her once and for all. Maul is chased to Ord Mantell, where Black Sun had a stronghold. Talzin does not reveal herself just yet, but she does send a group of Night Brothers to help Maul in the upcoming battles. They join the loyal Mandalorians and the remnants of the Shadow Collective, but in reality they have joined a slaughter, because Grievous and his droid army were not far behind. Despite all of Maul's tactics, the losses are huge. However, they would have been even greater had Maul not managed to reach Grievous in time to shut down the battle droids, finally allowing the tide of the battle to turn. Maul and his forces successfully capture both Dooku and Grievous. Meanwhile, the Jedi Order had been attempting to keep track of Maul, but they lost track of him when he was imprisoned by Sidious. This latest power struggle gains the attention of the Republic, so the Jedi, led by Obi-Wan Kenobi, boldly attempt to capture all of their enemies at once and finally end the Clone Wars. As the Jedi attack, Dooku frees Grievous and joins forces with Maul. Recently, Dooku had begun to realise that his master does not care about him, and that Sidious would happily abandon him without a second thought, just like what had happened to Maul. The duo escapes, abandoning the majority of Maul's forces. They chart a course to Dathomir, where Talzin awaits. Along the way, Maul is contacted by Black Sun and the Pike Syndicate, who voice their concerns over Maul's recent priorities. His actions have cost them their strongholds on Zanbar, Ord Mantell, and a Mandalorian asteroid outpost. But Maul assures them that once Sidious is dead, they will be able to rule the galaxy together. However, it's clear that they are unsatisfied. Now that they have successfully escaped the Jedi, Maul turns on Dooku. They arrive on Dathomir and Maul proudly presents his prisoner to Talzin as the spoils of war. Dooku will have to answer for his master's crimes against the Night Sisters. Talzin possesses him and begins to draw the very life force from Dooku. This will give her everything she needs to once again take on a physical form. But Darth Sidious and General Grievous arrive shortly after, having tracked Dooku's signal. The reunion is tense, with Maul stating that his plans are already in motion, that Sidious and Grievous are too late. However, his master assures him that there is only one plan, one great design that will govern the universe, and that is his. While Maul duels Grievous, Talzin, in Dooku's body, is left to contend with her rival, Darth Sidious. After a brief lightsaber duel, the Sith Lord bombards Dooku with Force Lightning, forcing a fully rejuvenated Talzin to emerge from Dooku's body, to take on Sidious once again. The two rivals attack each other in a ferocious display of Force Lightning. Dooku recovers and joins his master's onslaught, firmly helping to turn the tide of the battle. Talzin pulls up a magical barrier around herself, as her son implores her to keep fighting. Knowing that escape is impossible, she throws Maul to his ship, ignoring his desperate objections. She intends to save him one last time. When the witch finally collapses to her knees, Grievous charges in and impales her with his lightsabers. Maul cries out in despair as Talzin turns to stone and the magics fade from her body. Maul has now lost all of his family. He once again escapes, but this time Sidious does not follow. He has decided that Maul is no longer a threat to his plans, thanks to the death of Mother Talzin. The Shadow Collective itself had also been disrupted. Both the Black Sun and Pikes had been attacked by the Separatists, leading them both to retract their support. In addition, a Separatist invasion fleet had been deployed and attacked Dathomir. Things really weren't going well for Maul. In fact, you could say, the Sith had hit the fan. But luckily, he had survived, and so along with his loyal super commandos, he returned to Mandalore. The Pikes and Black Sun had recently abandoned Maul's Shadow Collective, but it didn't take long before they had come crawling back. They were also joined by a new group, called Crimson Dawn. They made a strong and powerful criminal alliance, but Maul had not always led them to victory. Furthermore, Maul ruling Mandalore had led to some unrest within its people. In fact, there was a group of Mandalorian rebels, led by Bo-Katan Kryze, who planned to overthrow him. Bo-Katan was the sister of Duchess Satine Kryze, one of the many victims of Maul's tyranny. The rebels believed that Mandalore should only be ruled by Mandalorians, and that Maul is not worthy to hold the title. So these rebels, along with former Jedi Padawan Ahsoka Tano, go to the Jedi Council for assistance. Unfortunately, it is a time of great turmoil for the Republic, and so no Jedi can be spared for this mission. But they aren't sent off alone. They are joined by Ahsoka's old ally, Clone Commander Rex. and together they lead a company of the 501st Legion of Clone Troopers to take Maul down, once and for all. Meanwhile, Maul had also begun having visions of the coming rise of the Galactic Empire, under his old master, Darth Sidious. Once upon a time, Maul was a key part of this plan, but those days are long gone. He had anticipated a confrontation from the Republic, but he planned the battle to be a trap for Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi and his former apprentice, the Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker. Maul wanted to finally take his revenge on Kenobi, and he wanted to kill Skywalker before he ever got the chance to become Sidious's new apprentice.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
So when Ahsoka shows up, Maul must recalculate his plans.
I was hoping for Kenobi. Why are you here?
After a very brief clash with Ahsoka, he makes his escape. He tells his syndicate leaders to go into hiding. He believes that the galaxy is about to be remade, and he plans to seize whatever power they can in the ensuing chaos. He also takes the time to realise that he and Ahsoka actually have a lot in common. They have both faced betrayal by their masters, which is to say that they had both been abandoned when they actually needed support the most. They have both lost faith in the systems that they have been living by.
I left voluntarily.
Yes, but you were motivated to leave by the hypocrisy of the Jedi Council. We were both tools for greater powers.
Maul knows that the world is about to change, and nothing can be done by the Jedi to stop it. Darth Sidious's plans were already in motion.
With your help, the Jedi can stop Sidious before it's too late.
Too late? For what? The Republic to fall? It already has, and you just can't see it. There is no justice, no law, no order, except for the one that will replace it. The time of the Jedi has passed. They cannot defeat Sidious. But together, you and I can.
He even offers Ahsoka a chance to join forces with him, as he recognises the potential in her, and they both want to bring down Sidious. She almost accepts to, but when Maul mentions Anakin's part in all of this, she stops.
He has long been groomed for his role as my master's new apprentice.
You lie.
She refuses to believe him. Her old master is a Jedi and a hero. He would never succumb to the dark side, would he?
I pledge myself to your teachings.
Henceforth, you shall be known as Darth Vader.
Maul and Ahsoka end up locked in lightsaber combat, and to be honest, it is one of the coolest battles of the whole series. They even got Ray Park, the original actor, back to perform scenes using motion capture technology. It's pretty dope, and I appreciate the effort that was made. But anyway, Maul, as always, tries to escape, but this time he is properly captured by Ahsoka and her troopers. And so the seemingly victorious group board a ship back to Coruscant. Around this time there is a great disturbance in the Force, and both Maul and Ahsoka feel it. Anakin has turned to the dark side, and Sidious's master plans are coming into fruition. Maul was right. The galaxy will never be the same. Ahsoka is not fully aware of what has happened, but she knows that it's not good. However, things go from bad to much, much worse when Order 66 is executed. Order 66 was a top-secret clone protocol which automatically identified all Jedi as traitors to the Galactic Republic. A control chip which had been installed in the brain of every single clone trooper made it so that they could not resist or disobey. All across the galaxy, thousands of Jedi were killed by their own troops. Back on the ship, not even Ahsoka was immune to this. Although technically she was no longer a Jedi, her troops still turned on her because of her force-wielding abilities. During this chaos, she frees Maul. She had not changed her mind about joining him, but rather she wanted to use him as a distraction while she made her escape. Maul has no choice, so he unleashes hell upon the troopers. Although admittedly he is often defeated by his enemies, you have to admit that he's still pretty badass. This whole sequence proves that. But of course, in the end, he does what he does best, and he manages to slip away. But the Jedi Order is destroyed, and the Republic no longer exists. The Clone Wars are over and the Imperial era has begun, where Darth Sidious, aka Palpatine, has successfully risen to power as the Emperor, and together with his new apprentice, Darth Vader, he rules the galaxy.
And it is during this era where Maul, Shadow Lord, picks up. We don't know exactly what will happen in this show yet, but it seems that Maul will be taking on a new apprentice. It is unclear what will happen to her, but we do know that they won't be sticking together forever. We also know that he will be gathering forces once again, rebuilding his crime empire. I'm sure that there will be lots of revelations as this series unfolds and fills in a few gaps, but we already know what happens after this time in his life.
9 years into the Imperial era, in 10 BBY, he has managed to keep control of Crimson Dawn, though he now works through Dryden Voss. Voss is the public face of the group, but all decisions are made secretly by Maul. High-ranking members of Crimson Dawn can always be identified by the logo that they either wear or have branded upon them. There seems to be some tense relationships with other criminal organisations, which means that Maul is not as powerful as he once was. Crimson Dawn seems to be the last group that he has control over. But being able to work in the shadows means that he has been able to stay off the Empire's radar. After the events of Solo, a Star Wars story, Voss is replaced by a woman named Kira. Although this hardly matters to Maul. Despite everything, Maul has survived and thrived, and although he believes that Kenobi may have died in the Jedi Purge, he knows that Sidious lives on. So, his lust for revenge is still not quenched. Maul does not forgive, and he does not forget. During the reign of the Galactic Empire, the Emperor created a group of Imperial Inquisitors. The Inquisitors were a specialised squad of Force users tasked with bringing down any Jedi that may have survived Order 66. This also included Maul, although any of their attempts to bring him down were always unsuccessful. We know this because any time that we see Maul during this era, he wields a makeshift double lightsaber, which is clearly made from repurposed parts of an Inquisitor lightsaber. In 3 BBY, an Inquisitor tracks Maul to the ancient Sith planet Malachor, where Maul had once been trained to hate all of the Jedi. Now that he has returned, he is looking for a legendary Sith holocron. In the Star Wars universe, holocrons are information storage devices, originally used by the Jedi and the Sith. They often contain a valuable lesson about the Force, which would be explained through holographic imagery, and most of them could only be accessed by Force users. Unfortunately, to access this particular holocron, Maul needs someone else with him. Because of the old Sith rule of 2, there must always be a master and an apprentice. Luckily, he encounters young Ezra Bridger, who had been separated from his band of rebels. Ezra accuses Maul of being a Sith, but in return, Maul explains that he is an enemy of the Sith. They took everything from him, which is good enough for Ezra, who agrees to help. They work together to traverse the temple, and finally they reach the holocron. At one point, Maul even saves Ezra's life, seemingly proving himself as a trustworthy ally. Soon after, Ezra is reunited with Ahsoka Tano and Kanan Jarrus, but they are quickly attacked by Inquisitors. Ezra's allies are both shocked when Maul steps out of the shadows. Ahsoka especially knows that Maul cannot be trusted, but they all must work together to defeat the Inquisitors.
The holocron. Do you have it?
You will find out soon enough.
Fall back!
Kanan, Ahsoka and Maul manage to fight off the Inquisitors, so Maul tries to convince them that they can continue to work together. After all, the main reason that Maul wants the holocron is to learn the information needed to defeat the Sith, thus taking down his old master. He points out that the rebels could use that information too, to potentially defeat Vader and the Emperor. In the end, Kanan and Ahsoka reluctantly agree to Maul's request. When they are attacked again, Maul sends Ezra forth on his own. But after this fight, Maul suddenly reveals his sinister intentions by striking Kanan with his lightsaber, permanently blinding the Jedi. Despite this, Kanan still manages to defeat Maul, using the Force to shove Maul off of the edge of the temple. This is probably for the best though, because soon Vader shows up and all hell breaks loose. Overall, Rebels probably isn't as good as Clone Wars, but when it is good, it's awesome. And this, the Season 2 finale, is a prime example of that. The next time we see Maul is several months later, when he takes the crew of the Ghost as hostage. He now wants both that Sith holocron from Malachor, but also the Jedi holocron, which he knows that the Rebels have. You see, if a Jedi and Sith holocron are opened together by a Lightsider and a Darksider, they would fuse together and be able to answer any question that the users desire. This is what Maul now wanted to achieve. Despite now fully understanding that the former Sith cannot be trusted, Ezra must work with him anyway, to protect his friends.
Well, my apprentice, what is your question?
You know what I want. I want to destroy the Sith.
You are as ambitious as ever.
Maul still sees Ezra as a potential apprentice, despite the fact that the young rebel wants nothing to do with him. Maul is no longer a Sith, but he does want his legacy to continue, which is why he had become rather obsessed with Ezra. He had seen potential in the boy. Together they combine and open the holocrons.
I see him.
Twin sons.
Ezra is almost overwhelmed by the power emanating from the combined holocrons, but Kanan manages to help him stick it out. Maul does not get all of the knowledge that he wanted, but he was able to discover something through the Force. Instead of facing the Rebels again, he makes a quick getaway. Forget Ezra, forget the Rebels, he has been given a renewed purpose. However, it turns out that the holocrons only revealed part of the vision to Maul, revealing the other half to Ezra. Neither of them had learnt all of the details. Realising that he has been too hasty, Maul tracks down Ezra once again. It turns out that ever since they opened the holocrons, the two had become linked through the Force, which meant that Ezra had begun having visions of Maul.
Ezra!
Ezra!
Kanan, what's going on?
I don't know. Ezra,
can you hear me?
Which is obviously not ideal. So when Maul offers to put an end to that connection while completing their visions, Ezra reluctantly agrees to join forces. Maul brings Ezra to his homeworld on Dathomir, where they must perform a magical Night Sister ritual. Also, despite Ezra's frustrations, Maul continues to insist upon the master-apprentice relationship. As they prepare, Maul also reveals that he is one of the last of his people. And we already know that the Night Sisters have all been wiped out, so Dathomir is all but abandoned. His home is full of relics from his past, including a shrine to what he feels is his greatest victory, a mural of Satine Kryze, the one-time love interest of his old rival Kenobi, a woman that Maul had murdered out of spiteful vengeance. He also still has the Darksaber, a weapon that he had not used since the Clone Wars. He now only keeps it as a reminder of when he almost had absolute power. Together they perform the ritual and successfully discover that Kenobi is still alive, and he is the key to defeating the Sith.
Of course, it ends where it began. A desert planet with twin suns.
Somehow, he had survived the Jedi Purge and he was now in hiding on a planet with twin suns. Suddenly, they are attacked by the spirits of the Night Sisters. He makes one last attempt at convincing Ezra to join him, but once again, Maul is turned down. So, he makes his escape, leaving Ezra and the rebels to deal with the ensuing chaos. And so, Maul goes to confront the Jedi Master one last time on Tatooine, the same planet where he had originally revealed himself all of those years ago. Ezra also knows that Kenobi is alive and has also tracked him down to Tatooine, not realising that Maul is already there on the hunt.
Kenobi!
Both struggle to find Kenobi, unaware of each other's presence on the planet. But after Ezra collapses in the desert, the Jedi Master reveals himself and steps in to help. When he regains consciousness, Ezra warns Master Kenobi of Maul. However, the Jedi is already aware of his old rival's presence. Ezra wants Kenobi to return with him to help with the rebellion, but Kenobi calmly explains that he is exactly where he needs to be. Ezra doesn't fully understand, but we know that Kenobi is on Tatooine to protect young Luke Skywalker. You see, the holocrons were right. One day Kenobi will help bring balance to the Force by training Luke Skywalker, Vader's secret child, to become a Jedi. For now though, Luke is not ready, so Kenobi watches him from afar. As Kenobi and Ezra wrap up their conversation, Maul arrives.
Now the only one who has gained anything from all of this is...
me.
You must go now.
I led him to you. Let me make it right.
That is not your responsibility. I will mend this old wound.
Ezra leaves the pair so that they can engage in one final duel. It has been a long and twisted path to get here, but finally the rivalry is coming to an end.
Why come to this place? Not simply to hide. Oh, you have a purpose here. Perhaps you are protecting something? No. Protecting someone.
Kenobi begins using his traditional lightsaber stance. However, he quickly changes to that of his old fallen master, Qui-Gon Jinn. His movements here pay homage to the prequels when he was younger, and to what we would see in A New Hope when he faces off against Vader. The moments before the clash reveal that they are sizing each other up, so when they finally do strike, it's pretty much already over. Maul strikes with the same move that he had killed Qui-Gon with, but Kenobi counters it and quickly takes Maul down. And just like that, the duel is over. Over the years, Maul had been consumed by hatred, and he had been blinded by it. All while his rival had been meditating. Kenobi had continued to epitomise everything good about the Jedi, and so, even as his enemy lay dying in his arms, he could not help but show mercy to him. He offers Maul hope.
Tell me, is it the chosen one?
He is.
He will avenge us.
Even as he dies, his thoughts are of vengeance. And so there you have it. That's everything we know about Maul's life. You're all caught up? If you've made it this far, leave a hello there down in the comments below. This is my longest video so far, so I want to see if there's people that actually finished it. If you did, and if you appreciated it, please leave a like, or share the video, or even just tag a friend to educate them a bit. I would appreciate that.